What's going on, guys? It's Patrick from Purple Park Studios, and I'm back here today with another AI game dev tutorial. And in this video, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be setting up the enemy. So right down here in my assets folder here, I've got a bunch of animations. So let's go ahead and drag one in here. I'm just going to drag this gunplay one in first, and I'll hit F to focus in on the object that I'm going to edit here. And we can see here that I've got a character, so he's going to be our enemy sci-fi character. And I've got a bunch of other animations down here, which we'll get into that in a little bit in the video, and we're going to set them all up so that in gameplay he will be able to run, shoot, idle, patrol, and die when he gets shot by our main character, who is this guy over here. So the first thing I need to do is I need to get my texture on this guy here, and I'm starting with this shooting animation here. This is going to be our shooting animation, and the reason that I'm starting with this is because I need to parent the weapon, which I have not yet added into my scene. I need to parent that to his right hand here, and I just want to do that first so I can set it up and make sure everything's positioned correctly, and then all the other animations like walking and running, he's roughly in the same position, so everything should work out pretty good. And he's just going to be getting destroyed over and over again. There's not going to be a whole lot of focus up close on him, so it should be okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my enemy sci-fi soldier here and grab my texture and just drag that onto him. What I need to do next is I need to go back over here to Meshy AI, and I was having the AI texture a weapon while I was getting that set up. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. So this is one of the weapons it gave me. I actually really like this, so I'm going to go ahead and hit download. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I've created a folder for his weapon, so I'm going to go ahead and grab my downloaded files and just drag them in here. And the first thing I'm going to do is drag this weapon in here, and it is freaking huge. So I'm going to go ahead and put this texture on it first. And what we're going to do, I'll hit F to focus in on this. I'm going to need to scale this down, so I'm going to go ahead and just hit this little icon up here so they all scale together. And then we'll just scale that way down. We'll adjust the size then. Go ahead and move this up. This is probably still going to be way too big. Oh yeah, way too big. That's awesome. So go ahead and scale this a little bit more. Something like this. Maybe we can make this just a pinch bigger. Something like that. And I'll go ahead and get this into position, and I might need to adjust the size as we move on here. Alright, so I've got my weapon roughly in position here. This will be good enough for now. So I'm going to go ahead and hit File and Save. And what I need to do next is I need to parent this weapon to the right boned hand of the soldier. So I'm going to go find my guy here. Right now he's called Gunplay. That's the animation. I'm going to go ahead and rename this in the hierarchy over here. I'm going to rename it to Sci-Fi Soldier. And we'll go ahead and click this little arrow, and we'll get a drop down. I'll click the armature, and I'm going to go ahead and just keep expanding this here. We'll go to, I think it's under spine, spine 1, spine, right shoulder, right arm, right forearm, and here's the right hand bone right here. And he doesn't have finger bones because it's going to be a pretty low poly game. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my sci-fi soldier weapon and just parent that to the right hand. So now wherever the right hand bone moves, the weapon will move. And if we change these animations dynamically, which we will be in the animator, which we'll get to, the weapon's always going to be parented to his right hand. So we have to do that first. Alright, cool. So now we can go ahead and move on to the next step, which is going to be getting everything set up in the animator. Alright, so I'm going to go into ChatGPT here, and you can ignore everything up here. This is just some stuff that I was working on before. So I have a prompt here that says, I brought my sci-fi soldier into Unity, and the pose I have in my viewport is the shooting pose. I did this first so I could position and parent the weapon correctly. It's parented to the right hand bone. Please give me step-by-step instructions on how to set everything up in the animator so I can use my animations in the game. Once we have the animation set up, we can move on to setting up the script and interactivity with the environment and player. So I'm going to go ahead and run this prompt, and we'll see what it says. So he says, got it, since your sci-fi soldier is already in Unity with the shooting pose as the default and the weapon parented to the right hand bone, we'll set up the animator step by step. Now we can go ahead and change the default pose later in the animator, but for right now it's fine. So he's going to give ChatGPT is going to give us the step-by-step instructions here and to set up the animator for the sci-fi soldier. So our first step, number 1, create an animator controller. So in Unity's project window, we need to right-click Assets and Folder. So we're going to need to create the animator controller. So what we can do is, since I already have a folder here in Unity for my sci-fi soldier, we can go ahead and create that in this folder here. So I'm going to go ahead, right-click, create animator controller. So we'll go to animation, animator controller, and we'll call this sci-fi soldier controller. Alright, so 2, we need to assign the controller, so we'll select our game object, and in the inspector we'll find the animator component and drag the enemy animator into the controller slot. So I'll go ahead and select him here, add component, grab animator, and we'll click the little drop down arrow here, and you can see there's a controller here. We can drag our sci-fi soldier controller right here into this controller slot under the animator component that we've added on our player in the inspector. And if you watch my previous video where I did a 5-video series on making a game using AI, I kind of explained the interface of Unity. So over here we've got the hierarchy, which is like all of our objects, everything in the scene. Over here is like basically our folders in the project tab. You can open up your folders, and this is where you can store different things. And then if you select any object over here in the hierarchy or in the game view, it'll open up what's called the inspector. And the inspector is just basically where we can add different components or different features, different things to our character or object that we have selected. Okay, so going back into ChatGPT, now that we've got our controller set, import and assign animations. So I've already imported my animations. I used a combination of Meshy AI for the rigging and character creation, and then I used Mixamo to actually get the animations. So what we need to do is click on the animations in the project window, and in the inspector set the animation type to humanoid and click apply. So this is really important. So what we're going to do is I'm going to open up this folder here for animations, and I'm going to go ahead and select this. I'll go to animation, or I'm sorry, rig, and I'm going to change it from generic to humanoid, and I need to click apply. And this is a really important step, so I need to go ahead and do this for all of these here. And in case you're wondering, if you don't know, these are all my different animations. So you can see here I've got one for flying death, gunplay for him shooting, rifle idle, standing with his rifle idle, running with his idle. So we need to change this one to humanoid. Click apply, and then this one says sword, but it's I'm going to use this animation for something else. And so apply, and then we've got one walking, which we may not use the walking one. I might just keep this pretty basic, having them idle and then run, but walking could be cool, so I have it there just in case. So hit humanoid and apply. So now all of these should have the humanoid. Alright, cool, they do. So I'm going to go ahead and hit file and save, and we'll go back into ChatGPT. Alright, so we've got the animator controller created, we've assigned the animator controller, and we've set up our animations. So let's just make sure they're all correct. So yes, so we've got the humanoid, and that's the only thing it said to do. So we'll go down here to 4. We'll add animations to the animator controller. So we need to open the animator window. So you can, this is pretty easy to do. You go up to window, go down to animation, and animator. And you'll see it opens up a whole new window. And it's important to make sure that you have your player selected here. So now that we're in the animator window, we've got the sci-fi soldier selected. So now we need to drag and drop the animations into the animator window. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and drag these in here. I'll drag my idle in first. And it's giving me a double. I'm just going to go ahead and delete that second one there. And I'm going to go ahead and drag in my shooting and delete that one there too. I'm going to go ahead, I don't know why it's giving me doubles, it's weird. So we're going to go ahead and add in our death 1. Make sure to keep the correct one. And we'll grab death 2. It usually doesn't give me doubles. I think it's because I renamed everything. I'm not sure, but so I have idle, shooting, death 1, and death 2, and then I'm going to go ahead and add a running animation in here, and we'll go ahead and add a walking animation in as well. And I'm just going to move things around so we have a little bit more space here, so we can kind of see what we're doing a little bit better, because we're going to start dragging some lines, connecting these up. So I'll go back into ChatGPT. So we'll right click idle and set to the default layer. So it's already default, but so we can't click it, but you could make any of these the default layer by right clicking and setting to default layer, and then that one will turn orange, the default layer, but we want idle to be our default layer, so we'll go ahead and set idle to the default layer. That way when we run the game, the player automatically starts in the idle pose. And we're going to control via script. We'll make these transitions happen via the script based on what the enemy's doing at certain times of the game. So we can go back into ChatGPT, and now we need to create transitions between the animations. So now we'll make the enemy switch between animations dynamically. So we'll go from idle to running. So right click idle and select make transition, and then click running. So I'll go ahead, and with idle selected, I'll right click, make transition, and I'll go to running. And now it's going to have us do the opposite, right click running, make transition to idle. So right click, make transition, back to idle. And now we just need to repeat this process for the other ones, and then we'll add the parameter controls next. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is add parameters for control. So in the animator window, we'll look at the left panel and we'll click add parameter. And we're going to create is running, is shooting, and is dead. And it's important to note that for is running and shooting, they need to be Boolean, and is dead needs to be trigger. So we'll go up here, and I'm going to click parameter or parameter, and I'll go ahead and click this little plus icon, and we'll hit bool for Boolean, and we'll put is running, and we'll repeat the same thing for is shooting, and then a plus icon, trigger is dead. So now we need to set up transitions. So we'll click the transition line from idle to running, and in the inspector under conditions we'll set it to true. So right here is idle, and you can see the line from idle to running. We need to click this line right here, it'll turn blue. So over here in the inspector under conditions, we'll hit the plus icon, and it says is running true, and you can change it to true or false, but we want it to be true because on the arrow going from idle to running, it's true, he's running. And we'll set this arrow over here, we'll make a condition for this, and is running, we'll change it from true to false, because then he won't be running anymore, he'll be idle. So we need to basically follow this process and connect everything up. I'm going to kind of speed through this here and skip over it, but you can just, if you're using ChatGPT to set this up, it'll give you all the instructions. So for the sake of the video, I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but you just basically repeat that process. The only difference is on death, you got to make sure that when we click the condition here, we need to change it from is dead, and then the plus icon, or no, we just need to change it from is running to is dead. So we can just do that real quick. Okay, so now that I've got everything set up here and it looks correct in my animator, we're going to go back into ChatGPT, and before we actually make the script, I just want to see if it can give us a quick script so we can kind of test this stuff out. You'll notice up here that I also added an is walking Boolean, and that's because I want to have a walking animation in here. I think it's going to make it cool. So what we'll do is I'm going to go ahead and grab all the... So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a prompt here, and I'm going to say, okay, the animator is set up. I also added a Boolean for is walking and a walking animation. say before we create the actual game code, please write me a test script so we can make sure the animations are working. So he says, great, below is a test script that will allow you to manually trigger the animations using keyboard input. This will help verify the animation transitions are working correctly before integrating actual game logic. Because what we don't want to do is go ahead and build a whole script and all this stuff and get working on it and then find out that stuff doesn't work. So we're going to test it right off the bat to make sure it works and make sure everything's set up correctly. So steps to use the script. So in Unity, go to Assets folder, blah, 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 create a new script, and we're going to name it Enemy Animation Test. So we'll open the script and replace it with the test code. So here's some test code here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit copy, and it looks like there's the instructions here. So what we'll do, that's interesting, it says W. I don't know if we want to use those keys because those are movement keys. But we'll let me ask that. I'll say WASD are my movement keys when running the game for the main, or we'll say for the player. Should we use different keys to test? And the typing's all bad, but it's fine. So let's see here. Yeah, good point. Since, yeah, okay, so he's gonna give us another script here. Cool. All right, so here's the updated enemy code. And so now we're going to be using T, Y, U, and I. And it should start on the idle pose, so we'll know that that's working. So go ahead and copy this, and I'll go to Unity, I'll go to Scripts, I'll right click, create scripting, empty C# script. So rename this to Enemy Animation Test. And go ahead and I'll open up the script here, double click it, it should open up in Visual Studio. I really need to update my Visual Studio, I'm still using 2019. So I'll go ahead and paste in the code that it's given me. So it's real important to go ahead and hit File and Save. So we'll go ahead and save that, we've got no errors, that's great. So if I go back into chat real quick, T, Y, U, and I are what I need to be looking for here. So Unity is going to go ahead and compile the script, and then we'll hop into the game mode here. So what I'm going to do is go up to my scene here. I'm going to grab this player here, and I'm going to move him over here, right near my main character, so that way I don't have to change my camera view or anything, and I can just kind of run the game like this. So go ahead and run the game. And nothing's going to happen because I just realized that we didn't attach the script to the enemy. So with the enemy selected here, I'll go ahead and grab my enemy animation test code and drag that on there. So I'm going to go ahead and hit File and Save. And we'll go ahead and hit play. So I can move my main character here. Now let's test these animations on the enemy, and I'm getting attacked, but we'll ignore that for now. I don't have any health set up. So it looks like nothing's happening when I'm pressing these buttons, so that's not a good sign. Alright, so one very important thing we need to do to get this to work is with the Sci-Fi Soldier selected, we can go to our inspector, and under the animator, you'll notice that we didn't assign an avatar. So we'll go ahead and select this, and I'm going to type idle, and it's the rifle idle. The breathing is for the character, main character, so we'll pick rifle idle avatar, and we'll go ahead and hit File and Save. And now if we go ahead and hit play and run the game, we'll see what happens. So the good news is now we can see that the character is idling, and now he's doing his running animation, and now he's doing his shooting animation. We're going to have to scale him up a little bit. We'll do that when we make the prefab. So he's not doing the walking animation, but I think he's going to do the dying animation. Yep, there he just did his dying animation. Alright, so now that we've got that working, let's go ahead and explore the environment here. And the FPS in the game is 30, but you're probably not seeing it at 30 because it's just my screen capture program is just a little bit laggy. I've got to bump the FPS up on that. So yeah, I'm still in the process of doing environment design. I just added some crates and stuff, but yeah, it's going pretty cool so far. So probably gonna add like some little health power-ups or some pickups you can get. Maybe maybe some interchangeable weapons. We'll see. We'll see how crazy I want to go with this. So guys, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, don't forget to hit like and subscribe and leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.